Hello, everybody. All right, so first, Anthony says he's not going to be here. Yeah, I think I kind of remember him saying that his lessons were on Saturdays. All right, so let's see here. I'm double checking. I don't think we have any early questions. There was a topic that came up that I wanted to cover. I think it's important for us to talk about this, even though. So yeah, nothing come in. So let's talk about. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about because it came up in a conversation, and I don't want to give any more detail than that. But someone was asking why anybody would take lessons or buy my books or any of that stuff with my credentials. And what they were talking about was if you have the option. So, like for example, I'm trying to move my mouse around. If you have the option to buy the Arbin book or one of my books, there are people that actually believe that it's preposterous that I would even recommend my book in that context because who am I, right? And I think that's the point they're trying to make is that they think that how famous and how successful, I have to say successful with the up eyebrow, right? You are is what gives validity to your materials as a teacher. And so I thought I would spend a little bit of time talking today while we're waiting for other questions. I figured we would spend a little bit of time today talking about my qualifications. And because, on the surface, here you have this guy, me, who says I don't want to be famous. I remember even in the early 80s, someone asked me, don't you want to be one of the best trumpet players in the world? And I told her, no, I don't want that. Because, first of all, for people to say you're one of the best trumpet players in the world is just a popularity thing. And that doesn't have any bearing on whether or not I reach my goals or not. And I'm one of those people that's more concerned about doing the job that I'm here to do than I am about everybody liking it. Does that make sense? I'm more concerned about doing the best job that I can do and less concerned about how popular my stuff is. And to talk about that, I've talked about this many times, just probably not here in this context on YouTube. There's one of the things I like to draw a distinction between is the difference between someone who is popular and someone who is highly regarded. Who is the popular guy? The popular guy is the guy who would get invited to your parties. The popular guy is the one that everyone wants to get an autograph from. The popular guy is the one that you want to get pictures with him and shake his hand and all that stuff. You want to have the popular guy at your concert, right? You have the popular guy as a main feature at your concert so people can come in and, and that's a thing, right? That's a thing. You want to have a crowd draw, someone who draws a crowd when you hire someone to play with your band. You have a guest soloist. You want to have someone who will draw a crowd. And that's someone who's popular as a musician. Instead, when it comes to what people think, first of all, normally I don't care what they think unless it has something to do with what I've done, right? So let's say I've had to work with somebody and they say, and they want to leave a review or something. The term that I'm looking for is highly regarded. So when someone knows that you can do the job and do it well, and maybe even better than most people, that's the only thing I want people to think about me. I want to be that person who's maybe not necessarily popular, but highly regarded. So, and that's how I've always wanted to be, right? Um, but most people don't draw a distinction between those two. Most people think popular is highly regarded, and that's not really how it works, right? And I'm not going to use this as a platform to badmouth people who are popular. Don't get me wrong. I'm not doing that. But there is a difference. And so anyway, so let's answer the question: why would someone buy my materials instead of buying the Arbin, the Clark book, stuff like that? My materials have value because the way they were written was in action. It was hands-on, working with other students. Now, there's 3 different types of books that I've written. And by the way, whatever I say now about the products also applies to the taking lessons, right? Why would you take with me instead of some famous guy? And like I said, when I say famous, I mean popular. Why would you take lessons with me instead of a popular person? The reason would be because of the same things I'm going to say about my books. Where did these books come from? I'm working with a student, and I noticed, when I first started teaching, I was using all the same books everybody else was. And in fact, by the way, I still use those books, just not as often. I still use the Arvin book. I still use Clark's book. I still use the famous A2 books. I still use Schlossberg. I still use all of that. But I do have a method now. I never stopped using those books. But yes, I started off teaching out of the same books, the Ghetto Book, all of that. And when there was a problem, when we hit a place in the process, in the learning process, in their learning process, my teaching process, where the book didn't help, out of all of these trumpet staples, there was nothing for that student. The Ghetto Book is a great example. The Ghetto Book for my students gets too high too fast. And that might just be because of my teaching style, but that's what happens. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Too high too fast. And I find myself, I think when I first realized that, I went back to the beginning of the Ghetto Book and would relearn stuff. I would try to go slower through the Ghetto Book. But the way I teach, we don't want them to push those high notes just yet. So I looked for other books. There was another book by Potag I don't think I have a copy of that right now. I might have a copy of it. Um, it's POTAG, P-O-T-A-G, and it's. I was using that as a follow-up to the Getchell, and I like the POTAG because the etudes are really, really short, but they're more dense in terms of how much information is in the etude. Lots of wonderful information. But even that was not getting me what I wanted with the students. So after a while, I would start writing out etudes for my students that would fill that gap. And I ended up writing more for them and more for them. Now I'm talking about etudes here, which is kind of sort of jumping the gun, because the first stuff I started writing was the routines. That first routine book, the daily routines, was 7 different routines that I wrote for the students I was teaching at the time, plus myself. And by the way, just so you know, when I first started those daily routines, we weren't rotating like we do today. Like in the one range book, we weren't rotating through the different skill levels like we do today. It's because of those different skill levels. Once we had the different skill levels, uh, it just made sense to start rotating them. Before that, there wasn't an option to rotate them because those different levels didn't exist. And that's something to think about, right? That's what I'm talking about. When you look at the famous warm-ups, the famous this, the famous that and almost every single one of those famous warm-ups is the warm-up that some famous person did, and that famous person can already play. These aren't warm-ups for beginners. So what do you do? Just struggle around, right? Hello, Osvaldo. Osvaldo said he's in Panama. Very good. He says, my brother and I are using some of the hymns, duets, trumpet duets in the Adventist church. Oh, that sounds great. Good news. All right. That book is another of what I'm talking about, right? I don't just write books to write books. When I see myself, I don't say, I mean, when I think about all this stuff, I don't say to myself, oh, I'm so wonderful, I should write a book. I'm so good, I'm good enough to write a book and people will listen. No, that's not how it works. So let's go back to the routines. Why did I write a routine for absolute beginners? Well, because I wanted them to have a routine, and there are no routines for absolute beginners. Back then, there was no such thing, at least not accessible to me. So if it's true that a great trumpet player is someone who practices routines, then why is it that the beginners aren't allowed to practice routines? The only reason they had is because the exercises were too hard over their heads. Well, why not simplify the exercises so that they are in that student's level, right? And that's how I've approached all of this stuff. And anyway, so what credential do I have that demonstrates that people should use my stuff? Here's the only credential that matters to me. This is the only credential. It's not about how good I am. It's not about my reputation. It's not about um, uh, how much people like my books or anything like that. I'm addressing each of the individuals. Did this work? If you did this now, and then at this time later, did it produce something, a beneficial result in your trumpet playing? Did it produce the results? And see, that's what I'm standing on as a merit for my books and for the teaching. It is not about how good the books are. It's not about how good I am. What it is could you take this material and go from point A to point B? Did it work? That's the only thing that matters to me. Did it work? If it didn't work, if you were my student and you were using my books and I knew you were doing them properly and it didn't work, do you think we would continue to do my books? The answer is no. And has this happened? Yes, it happens often. I shouldn't say often. What I mean by often is that there are times, recently a student decided that the lip buzz was not for him. And there was another student actually recently that I decided for the student that he should probably not do the lip buzz. Lip buzz is the first exercise in the book, right? Except for the breathing. If it was about me or if it was about my method, why would I tell those students not to do lip buzz? I think that's evidence right there. Same thing with literature. If I was only just doing my etudes, my music and stuff like that, why do I constantly have them doing other music? See, it's not like that. My only concern is your improvement. And for that matter, I'm here to help you figure out what to do. And I will say this, I will go as far as to say this, that this is all that should matter. Because why do you think that appeal to authority is one of the logical fallacies? Why do you think that's, if you don't know what the logical fallacies are, you should look it up online. Some people call them illogical fallacies. Some people call them logical fallacies. Let me look up on here. I actually have a favorite website. Let me see. I saw when I was doing that. There's a website called logicalfallacies.info. And it's got a bunch of these fallacies listed on the right-hand side. Ad hominem, bandwagon, fallacist fallacy, fallacy of composition, fallacy of division, gambler's fallacy, genetic fallacy, appeal to antiquity, appeal to authority, appeal to popularity. These are all fallacies, falsehoods. And the reason why we even care about these fallacies is because it helps us to digest, helps us to work through the information that we are exposed to every day. Right? It helps us work through this stuff. So let's look at this, right? I'm going to look at this. We'll do both of them. Let's start with popularity first. Appeal to popularity. Explanation. Appeals to popularity suggest that an idea must be true simply because it is widely held. This is a fallacy because popular opinion can be, and quite often is, mistaken. Hindsight makes this clear. There were times when the majority of the population believed that the earth is still the center of the universe and that diseases are caused by evil spirits. Neither of these ideas was true despite its popularity. I think those are bad examples. Those are bad examples, right? But you get the idea. Those are really bad examples. I mean, you should actually have better examples than that. Example, most people, here's like example number one, most people believe in a God or higher power, therefore. Right, so just because most people believe in a God doesn't mean there is a God. I'll agree with that most completely. God doesn't need to be believed to be in existence. Right? Number two, God or at least higher power must exist. Oh, there, yeah, that's the number two is the okay. Anyway, this argument is an appeal to popularity because it suggests that God must exist based solely on the popularity of belief of God. An atheist could, however, accept the premise of his argument. So today, most people, it is more popular to not believe in God, and you could actually switch that around and go the other way. You can say God must not exist because everybody believes God doesn't exist. Neither one of those is true. Okay, let's look at appeal to authority, because that's also a problem that we have in the trumpet lessons, okay? Appeal to authority. Explanation. An appeal to authority is an argument from the fact that a person judged to be an authority affirms a proposition to the claim that the proposition is true. Appeals to authority are always deductively fallacious. Even a legitimate authority speaking on his area of expertise may affirm a falsehood. So no testimony of an authority is guaranteed to be true. You could replace the word here with the word expert. You can say appeals to experts are always deductively fallacious. Even a legitimate expert speaking on his area of expertise may affirm a falsehood. So no testimony of an expert is guaranteed to be true. However, the informal fallacy occurs only when the authority cited either A, is not an authority, or B, is not an authority on the subject on which he is being cited. If someone either isn't an authority at all or isn't an authority on the subject about which they're speaking, then that undermines the value of their testimony. Okay? But anyway, so my point is that to think that something is a book is not, so talking about the difference between my books and other books, right? To think that my books are not good enough because famous people aren't saying good things about them, that's fallacious. And to me, I really don't, here's the thing. I've been publishing books since 1990. I have never sought out, there's one sort of exception, but I've never sought out famous people to say good things about my book. Remember, you guys have heard me say this before. There are a bunch of things that I won't do. I know a bunch of stuff about business, not just music business, but all business, that I just won't do because it goes against my Christian belief. And using appeals to authority is one of those things I won't. I won't do anything on that fallacy list on purpose to try to make sales. I won't do it. So what I will do is if someone famous says something nice about my books, and that did happen, I asked the guy, he sent me an email telling me wonderful things about my Celebrations duet book. And I asked him, I said, do you mind if I put this on my website? He said, yes. So as far as trumpet goes, he's a famous trumpet player, right? Not maybe not like as famous as Arturo or somebody like that, but he's famous. So I don't actively search these things out because it goes against my religion, my religious beliefs, my faith. Okay, a lot of people would not, a lot of Christians won't have problems with doing that. They don't think there's anything wrong with it. I consider it witchcraft. When you do stuff to make people do things against what they would have normally done, it's considered manipulation, and manipulation is witchcraft. Okay. Anyway, so I will not participate in that. So we do have some questions. If anyone has a question about why what I'm saying or anything like that, um, feel free to ask. James is here. Hello, James. Hi, Eddie. How long in advance do I need to post a question on your website in order to include in the next Q&A? About 15 minutes. I pull it up when I'm right before we start. So it can be 1 minute before. Just once we start, then it's too late. Okay? That's a good question because, so yes, I have that open while I'm doing, so I have the first tab is this live stream. Second tab is my website on that page. Gary, hello Gary, nice to see you. He says, hey Eddie, hope you are having a great Saturday. Yes, I am, thank you. I got rehearsals this week with my community orchestra and I'm playing the opening trumpet solo in Prokofiev's Lieutenant KJ. I'm having issues with consistency. I either bomb it or start shaking on high notes. Yeah. Any advice on what I can do to get a straighter tone? Now, I don't remember that solo outright. Let me see if well, that would take too long. Any recommendation on what to do to get a straighter tone? So, yeah, for that, I would have to know more about what's going on. I had a student earlier today that's the same issue we were talking about. He sounds great. It'll sound great, sound great, sound great, sound great. And then sometimes for him, the instrument will shake in his hands. So we did look at how he's holding the instrument and stuff like that. But it really depends on what the source of the tone is. If you think it's nerves, let's cover some of the bases because maybe I don't know if you're still watching. It could be anxiety. And I think with anxiety, this is going to sound nuts, but I think with anxiety, the answer to it is to focus on the music. I know that's going to sound nuts. Okay, cool. So what do you think it is? Is it anxiety? So just talking about anxiety, you know, I believe that if we can focus on that whole singing. Now, when I say anxiety, I don't mean performance. What do they call that? Uh, yeah, there's performance anxiety, stage fright. I'm not talking about that. Okay. I mean, okay, so he says, I'm not sure, possibly, but I also think my embouchure lip like a lip quiver. So if there is something going on with the 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 what am I thinking? The muscles vibrating. Now, okay, so let's answer this question. Does it only happen on the high notes? I seem to remember you bringing that issue up before. Am I right? Oh, he says my top lip has an indent in the shape of my mouthpiece. Yes, I've seen. I actually used to have that. In fact, I've got just a remnant of from, and this is from the 80s. I still have places where there's flesh missing here and flesh missing here. Um, from when I used to play, like, so he says, yes, it's on the high notes, mainly on the high notes. Yeah, let's think about that for a little bit. Now, are you sure it's your lip and not your jaw? Let's isolate that now first. Are you sure? So is the jaw shaking? Because that would be something entirely different from the lips shaking. I've seen the jaw shaking thing before. But you know, even that. Okay, he says it's not the jaw because my bottom lip is usually fine. Um, yeah, you know, I think I would need to have more information. If there's some way for you to make a video of this happening and send it to me, or put it on Facebook and I mean on not Facebook, on YouTube, and make it unlisted and send me the link, I could do a better job of maybe pinning down what's going on. But just with what you're telling me, it's all I can't quite figure out what's going on there. Huh. I'm not one of those guys that thinks I know everything about everything. And that's, you know, what we were talking about, the books. And I think that's why people, the way they approach, he says, no worries. Thank you, Eddie. I'll see if I can find film it. That would work. I think that would help me a lot to help you. And but going back to what I was saying, right, about the appeal to authority thing, I think we approach music, and you've heard me say this before, right? We approach music and trumpet and all that stuff almost as if it's a religion. And we see, and I'm not saying, by the way, Gary, I'm not saying this about you, okay? Okay, so let's be clear about that. Um, but we see that that it's almost as if there is a trumpet god, and the famous successful trumpet players are the saints. And we need help from the saints. So we want God. The trumpet God isn't listening to us. We don't have a direct connection to the trumpet God. So we go to um, these trumpet saints to get word from God about what we're doing. Yes, Gary says trumpet ain't my God. Amen. but but you know what? What I'm talking about is the way people do this, right? It's almost as if, like with a religion, right? Like, because me as a Christian, I know that God knows all of my problems, right? Now, I don't have to have a saint to intercede for me. I can go straight to the source. I can ask God, and there have been many miraculous moments in my life where I prayed about something and I got an answer. Okay, but I think in the trumpet world, what happens, and I'm sure it's like this in other fields too. But we 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 know that something's not right, and we go to the famous people, and we say, "Tell me what's wrong with me." And you know what? They want your money. They want your support. They want your admiration. They want your praise. So they're not going to say, "I don't know anything about you. How can I help you?" They're going to say, "Oh, here is the answer." Someone will say, "You must practice from the Arvin book," or here's another one. "You must practice every day." Well, I'm having trouble with this and that, and they'll say, "Well, how much are you practicing?" You have to practice every day, and the truth is, so like what we're talking about here with Gary, most of those people don't know enough about you to give you a proper answer. And I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to ever be that person that says, "I have all the answers for you. Just do what I tell you, and then that'll be it." Um, that's not how I operate. And we were talking about the books earlier. The books came to existence because of this way that I approach this. You're working with me, and you say, "I have this problem," and I say, "Let's look at this. First thing we're going to do is diagnose it. What's going wrong? Why is this happening?" That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to take a look and test it. We're going to, and I don't, not philosophize about it. We're going to test it. Do this and do that. Do this and do that. At first, we're not fixing the problem. At first, we're trying to figure out what is the problem, because you can't fix it if you don't know what it is. And anybody that hasn't taken the time to do that with you can't truly give you an answer to that you're looking for. It doesn't matter how popular they are. It doesn't matter how successful they are as trumpet players. They can't help you. And it's just like a religion. It's just like a religion. If you fail, it's on you. It's sort of like the doctors with I've learned so much lately about, here on YouTube, by the way. I've learned so much about the truth behind metabolic syndrome. Now, and the stuff that I've learned is you can test it. I've tested it and it works. The stuff I've learned, and it's all scientific, by the way. It's not that pseudoscience nonsense. And it's entirely opposite of what the doctors have been telling me for my whole life. And I see the trumpet stuff the same way, right? The trumpet, there's stuff that they tell you all the time. Oh, we were talking about metabolic syndrome. One of the aspects of metabolic syndrome is weight gain. Now we know what weight gain is caused by. We know precisely what causes weight gain. It's clear. There's no secret to it. Nobody's teaching this because it doesn't make anybody any money. But weight gain is clear. There's no, but for your doctor, when you go to your doctor and the doctor says you need to lose weight and tells you this, and that, and the next time you come in, you weigh more now. And you tell the doctor, I tried, but I just couldn't lose the weight. And the doctor says, you're just not trying hard enough. They think you're lying. Why? Because they believe that what they told you is the answer to weight. If you're not getting the weight loss, it's because either you're lying about doing it or you're just not doing it. When we know today, what we know about metabolic syndrome, what we know today is that what those doctors tell you is completely wrong. Completely wrong. And it's the same thing with the trumpet stuff. It really is. So people will say, this is what you have to do. Thou shalt practice the Arbin book, and that will fix all of your problems. Well, I've worked with students that didn't fix their problems. A lot of times that's why people come take lessons with me, is because it didn't fix their problems. And it's so yeah. So what makes me different? I'm going to work with you. We're going to get you from point A to point B. And if you stick around, we'll go from point B to point C. Do I think you should stick around? That's up to you. That's another thing. I don't do this stuff in a way that it becomes addictive. You can leave when you need to leave. You stop when you need to stop. Okay? The way I teach is the whole thing is hands-on to help you get better. And we're going to do it in we use the word scientific. We were talking about science last week. Ganya says, just playing notes on a page won't fix problems. It's about how you practice. It's about how you practice, and I'll go as far as to say is how you practice is going to be different for each person too. James says, looking forward to the rest of your sight reading videos. I have been working hard to improve in this area. I have made good progress over the last year, but definitely want to watch your vids on the subject. Yeah, do you know what I had to do? I had to take some time off from YouTube making videos. So I apologize. I put that first one out and I don't know how to describe this. I think most people wouldn't tell you about this because it makes me look, I don't know. Anyway, so I finished that video and I was all riled up to do the next in the series. And I remember one morning, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, uh, sitting at my desk, almost numb. Not it's not that I didn't know what to do. It's just that there were so many things that had to be done, all of them important. And I'm like, the word I was using to describe it in my own thoughts was fractured. My thoughts, my day, everything about what I was doing was fractured. Um, and I decided I needed some time off from the YouTube stuff. I didn't want to stop doing this. The Q&A can keep going because it takes me some prep time, but it's not nearly as much extra time as doing one of these videos. So yes, I decided I'm going to take at least 2 weeks off before I get back into it again. I need to just get my priorities. That's really what happened. Is I had a moment where I wasn't sure about what my priorities were, and once the priorities go out the window, everything falls apart. Because you don't, when you just looking at the everyday stuff, right? When you sit down to get work done, deciding what needs to be done right now is based on priorities. And there was a moment where, like 2 weeks ago, where my priorities weren't very clear, and things just got crazy, crazy in my head. And I thought, okay, it's time to stop and just get focused. I've been still working hard. I'm not taking time off. It's just the videos. I don't think, how should I put this? The videos take too much of my time. They always have. Um, and I enjoy doing them. I want to continue to do them. But you know what? In the process, I realized that YouTube is social media. I don't know why I didn't think of it that way. YouTube is social media. Let me give you a little bit of a background on this. I've gotten off of all the social media. I had a few different accounts. I still have my Facebook account. I won't close the Facebook account down. I closed my Twitter account several years ago. Um, I think I have an Instagram account, but I don't do anything on it now. Um, I've gotten to the point where I'm really anti social media. And the reason for that is because I see what it's doing mentally to me. Now, maybe other people don't have this problem, but I have this problem. And it has to do with, I'm gonna uh, speak about it in terms of dopamine. I might be wrong about this. It might be a different hormone. It might be something entirely different. But to me, what I know about dopamine, this seems like what's happening. With social media, it's designed in a way to what I call steal your dopamine. Now, what is dopamine? Dopamine is that hormone that makes you want to get stuff done, right? Dopamine. So the way I've heard it described, you have something on your list of things to do. You say, I'm going to do this now, and you go for it. You and the more difficult it is to achieve that thing on your list, the bigger hit of dopamine you get. It's sort of like a satisfaction hormone. And what happens with social media is you get these tiny bits of dopamine. You scroll up, you scroll up, you scroll up, you scroll up, and each time you scroll, you get another tiny hit of dopamine. Scroll, scroll, scroll. And what you end up doing, because you like that dopamine, you keep scrolling and you look 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 and you look. Before you know it, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour has gone by and you haven't done anything. So, and I was finding that I had a problem with that. I would, you know, um, I would sit down at my desk to get some work done and just think, okay, well, let me just check Facebook real quick. 2 hours later, I get back to work again. That's 2 hours now that I'll never get back again. And, you know, for that to make sense, you have to understand how I live my life, right? I know a lot of people won't believe this, but I am on this earth to help people. God put me on this earth to help people play trumpet better. I know that sounds bizarre. I know it sounds nuts. But it's what I do. And when I'm playing my horn, I also see that as helping people too. And I look at that 2 hours that I spent on I look at the 2 hours that I spent on Facebook and I say, how did that help anybody? It's not helping anyone. And even if I am a self-centered, driven business person, which I'm not. I am into business, but I'm in the business of helping people. I don't know how else to say that. Um, but even if I was like that, what's the point of that 2 hours that I lost on Facebook? What? How did that help? That didn't help anything. And so a couple weeks ago, I realized that for some reason I never saw it this way, but YouTube is social media. And I think I was caught up in making videos with that same mindset, that same addiction. Really, you can also some people call dopamine the addiction hormone. It's also that. We call it an addiction when what you're addicted to is unhealthy. So yes, we can call what happens on Facebook and YouTube, for that matter, an addiction. And I think what I'm saying is that in that moment 2 weeks ago, I realized that I had become addicted to putting YouTube videos up. That does not mean I'm going to stop putting YouTube videos up, but it has to be on my terms, not in a response to this environment that YouTube creates. Right now, why am I blaming YouTube for this? Well, YouTube, it's a known fact that YouTube rewards people who post more. And that was always in the back of my head. If I keep posting, then the stuff will get out more. So what I decided 2 weeks ago is that I'm going to not let that happen to me. I will post on my schedule. No offense to you guys, right? I know you guys are waiting for these things, and I appreciate that. And it will get done. But I think what's going to happen because of this new revelation is that the videos will actually get better. I'm not just posting, not that okay, so don't get me wrong. I was never posting just to post, but I was really pushing it. And as a result, here's, I started really posting a lot in 2019. If you look at the books, the incomplete books that I've collected now, I have a list here somewhere. I have a list of 20 books that are anywhere from 10% to 95% finished. Books. That doesn't even include the compositions. Let me show you the compositions. This is just to give you guys an idea. These folders, so it looks like about 2 dozen. Maybe about 20. Each one of those folders has a complete composition in it. Anything that ends up, the way I compose, when the piece is done, there's a series of steps that has to take place. The first step is I save it in its own folder. So when I'm working on something, it's not finished yet, all of those go in a single folder called New Projects. I'm talking about on my computer, right? A computer folder. I have one called New Projects or Current Project. I think I call it Current Projects. And all the stuff that's incomplete stays there. Okay? Then, when it's finished, when I write the last note and I do the playback and I'm like, yes, that's done. Then first thing I do is I make a physical folder. I put the title on the physical folder. I print what I have just the way it is, and I put that print in the physical folder. There's several reasons for doing that. So what these are is complete compositions that have not been published yet. So I have incomplete books. I have complete compositions. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm not getting done. And what I'm kind of saying is that doing the videos has been keeping me from getting those things done. I hope that makes sense. And yes, it had become something of an addiction. So James says, no worries, my approach to sight reading is definitely working, but I am always interested in what others do to improve. Good. Javier, hello, Javier. Hello, Eddie, greetings, and thanks for answering the question I posted. Could not make it today. Hi to all trumpet friends, too. Yeah. All right. So we kind of been talking about the same stuff all this while. What is the difference between me and my books and the way other people do this? And I'm not doing this to put them down, so let's be very clear about this. The difference between what I do and what other people do. I'm doing this as a summary because we're out of time. I have an approach that's hands-on, helping you get from one point to the next point. It's a step-by-step process. And I can't do that if I don't have information from you. You look at the exercises, the etudes, all the stuff that I've written, a lot of it is more diagnostic than it is fixing the problems. A lot of it is to help you figure out what it is that's going wrong. There's aspects of the routines that are like that. when you do those routines each day, it makes you confront stuff. Nothing gets hidden. Nothing stays hidden. Anyway, I don't normally like talking about myself this much. I like really mostly just getting in there and doing it, right? And that's the point with the videos, right? Yes, the videos help people, but I don't think that the videos help as much as the books do. And I have 20 books that need to be finished. And I don't think the videos help as much as even the compositions. That might sound weird to you, but I don't think the videos are even as helpful to other trumpet players as these compositions are for a variety of reasons. So yes, and so when I was talking about the priorities thing, it was from that perspective. I was sitting there shattered in my head, fractured. I That was the correct word. I was fractured because my priorities. I realized my priorities weren't right. They were messed up. I think YouTube had become too high of a priority. I'm not going to stop doing the Q&A, and I already have a few of those hymn things uh, recorded. But when I think what I'm waiting for right now is when I know that the ball has gotten rolling on these other things. That's when I'll get back to um, putting some more videos out. But I'm already certain now that it's not going to be as often as what it was. Because these books, really, the books really need to be finished. The books really need to be done. Uh, there's stuff that if I don't get those things done, there's people that won't get helped. And, I remember someone hearing me talk like that before, and they were talking about how arrogant I was. Who do I think I am? Like some savior or something. That's not it. They don't understand at all. If that's how people see it, they don't understand. I see myself not as a savior, but as a servant. I really do see myself as a servant. I don't see myself as helping those less fortunate. I see it the other way around. I see myself as being humbled and helping those who have a need, not just because I'm in a better position than them. I've taught people who were better than me before. Can you believe that? Because you don't have to be better than your student if the process that you do is that process I was telling you about. Let's figure out what's going wrong first. Let's do a diagnostics. Then when we figure out what's wrong, let's try these things that we know as solutions for those problems. And along the way, we'll keep a tab on it and see if it's working. If it's not working, we're going to try something else. I could be, I could not even be a trumpet player and help somebody that way. You don't even have to be a trumpet player for that. So that's what I do is so, and I think when you start using the words, people get caught up, they get triggered by the words, right? So if you say, "Oh, I'm here to help people," oh, they think helping somebody is from that position, from here looking down. Let me grab you and bring you up to my level. That's not how I see it. That's not how I see it. I think as far as most things goes, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat, and I'm just a fellow traveler on that trail, helping you get to the next step. So anyway, yeah, I'm not comfortable talking about myself like that. Um, but it came up, like I said, it came up in a conversation, so that was what was on my mind. I can see why people would not use my stuff or not take lessons if my whole life I've been trying to not be famous, right? So, yeah, you get what you pay for. Um, all right, guys. Great to see you. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on the next video. I'm also trying to move these around so that more people can, try to get on here. The last few I didn't move it around, but we'll see. So I might try not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. All right. Well, God bless you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great week. Bye.